Hello, hello. And today we are having a special guest in my series, I Am Not Good Enough. And today, I am not good enough and how it affects your money story. And today I have a money coach. I'm so excited. I know we all need some improvements in the money department. I am still working on it because we have lots of conditions, right? So today I'm welcoming Rosa to be my guest and to be my expert on money, and I'm not good enough. Where we are with it, and how can we create possibilities to move forward into creating abundant mindset, lots of money, and feeling great about having all of it. Yay!
Yay. Thank you so much for having me, Jules. This is amazing. I'm so excited to be here and sharing this moment with you.
Awesome. I'm excited to be here with you and learning so much about what you do, how you do it, because I know, as we all are ambitious women and we like to accomplish things, we also like to kind of jump into that fixing mode. And as what I've been learning from you and from coaching, sometimes jumping into fixing mode is not going to create more money or more abundant mindset. There are some other things on the way. And that's what we'll be talking about. Yeah.
Yay.
Awesome. But before we go there, I would love for my audience to kind of get to know you, who you are, where you are,
Yeah.
how do you do
Yeah.
what you do, how to get here.
Well, my name is Rosa, and I'm a money and life coach, and I coach women on overcoming financial overwhelm and creating new money possibilities. A little bit of my background is that my career has been in accounting and finance, and I've helped businesses and individuals with money my entire career. But it's so interesting because even though I was surrounded by it, I always had this thought that I carried with me that this is just not for me. I'm just doing this for work. Until I started getting a little bit more curious about how I could make that happen for myself because I started looking further into my career and decided that I didn't want to be doing the exact same thing for the rest of my life, at least until retirement. So I started working a little bit just on hard skills. I started getting into investing and I really liked that. But then I noticed that there was a big missing piece, which was all thought work. It was all programming that I was running into. My mindset, as we call it, I was running into a lot of programming that I had from my childhood and things that I realized were completely basically stopping me from taking the next step because I was so afraid to lose the quote unquote little that I already had and lose what I had already worked so hard in my mind. At least that's how I was thinking about it to get to. So I started working on trying to teach hard skills and when it comes to investing and personal finance. And I ended up uh, realizing that just the way I was missing that mindset piece, a lot of women are missing that mindset piece because we're carrying a lot of those beliefs from our childhood that we didn't really get an upgrade when we became adults. No one said, like, okay, you don't have to stop believing those things anymore. Now you can go and believe whatever you want. We didn't have that update. So I ended up getting certified. I'm actually finishing up my certification right now. I'm going through the certification process as a coach, and I have found this thought work so valuable. I I feel like it could be completely life-changing for everyone because I realize that the hard skills is not the issue. Anyone can open up a book, anyone can Google something. It's the thought work, the mindset that everyone is experiencing that could potentially unleash you and create completely new money possibilities when you realize that it's something that's all within your control. So yeah, it's a little bit about myself.
Awesome. Yes,
Yeah.
thank you for sharing. There was a lot of great nuggets. Let me see if I can decipher some of them. First of all, yes, I also can relate that the thought work, the upgrading our operating system, so to speak, is so beneficial. And as we start thinking differently, we are creating different possibilities and opening up to different possibilities as well. No wonder that I think Napoleon Hill and many other ones, they do say, you are what you think, and what you think, that's what you create. So if we only can understand how we can be aware of our thoughts and have some tools or coaches who can help us upgrade those thoughts, then suddenly the life changes. Even though kind of like the circumstances are the same, it's almost like a magic. It's a miracle. And
Exactly.
we all can create that miracle, which is awesome. So let me kind of go back to what you said. You said it was interesting how you were working in the money industry and helping other people with the money, but you were separating yourself perhaps from a possibility or from that sense of I deserve that, or I deserve money. Like you said, oh, I thought it was not for me. I was just doing it for my work. So am I kind of sensing that I am not good enough was showing up right there where I'm
Yeah,
not
that
good
was
enough and I don't deserve that. I just don't
right.
work.
That was definitely one of my thoughts during that time. It always just felt like, I would see people would have hundreds of thousands of dollars, sometimes millions of dollars in their retirement accounts. And yeah, I think that was one of them where it was like, no, like this is just not for me. This is for them because they kind of maybe have a history or are smarter than me. Um, and yeah, definitely I'm not good enough is definitely one of the thoughts that I had that was keeping me behind that gate of possibility.
Yes. Let us feel and also meet your I'm not good enough. So when you were there in that environment and not feeling good enough, well, how did that story perpetuate you to how you were approaching your money, your own investments, your own personal money situations in your budget and in your family? What limitations
Yeah,
you were experiencing from I am not good enough, don't deserve that. Let's meet you.
right. Yeah, so when I was in that mindset of I'm not good enough, I was in scarcity mode because everything that I was making at the time, I was just kind of like keeping it and not investing it in whether it's like the stock market or myself for future growth or possibilities. I always had the idea of starting a business, but I was too scared to do it. And it was keeping me small, frankly. It was keeping me small because I just always felt like this is kind of the furthest that anyone that's come before me has ever gone. So I'm like, I'm already better, right? I'm comparing myself to my parents, maybe my grandparents. So I already felt like I had kind of reached that, you know, potential that maybe was felt like the biggest potential for myself because I always felt like anything beyond that, was I was not good enough for. So definitely kept me small. It kept me thinking small. It kept me away from any creative thoughts that I had about what could possibly be for the future, whether it's in terms of like career switches or starting a business. That definitely kept me in that scarcity state, or I didn't feel any type of abundance at all. I felt like money was limited. I felt like whatever I had to keep. And because it was so hard earned, and because I will probably not see as much down the future. So,
Yes, lots of limitations. I can for
mhm.
sure relate to pretty much all of them because I am a saver too. I'm just learning to like spend and invest as well. So I wonder if some of our audience can relate to that as well. Yes, like we are just using money as one of the physical representations of the big belief I'm not good enough. And as I'm doing this series from I'm not good enough, we see it in many other areas. But money is huge because we are definitely sensitive with money, and there is a lot that's coming up with money. So not feeling abundant. And what I also heard you say, like maybe that big underlying thought that limited mindset was creating for you, it is hard to earn money. When you keep saying that thought to yourself all the time, but deep inside of you, you have a desire to start your own business, how do you, now going back and also what you know now, like, how do you think that thought was serving you, especially with your desire that one day I want to start my own business? Was it really
Yeah, no, that thought was not serving me one bit. In fact, now I realize that by thinking that it was hard to earn money, I was making it impossible for myself to see anything beyond what I was doing at that time. So I was basically thinking it's hard to earn money, and I was making it impossible for myself to explore the possibility of making more money. Yeah, thinking it's hard to earn money made me scared, made me stay small. I mentioned that. I would not take risks. I would not look beyond. I would not ask. I would not research. And I virtually had no possibility of creating more money in my life because I was thinking it's so hard to make money. So that definitely kept me in a state of feeling stuck. I felt like I'll never have, better of a job than I have now because I already felt like it was such a great job. And it was keeping me away from exploring any kind of idea that I had, whether it was starting a business. At that time, I wasn't investing, and I was, going back to the same thing. I was just trying to like not spend because I felt like it's hard to earn this money, and I probably won't make much more in the future. So yeah.
Yes, and I loved how you just consciously or unconsciously led us through the self-coaching model that we do use with our clients, because we do come from the same school of thought. And I just wanted to kind of reorientate to our audience. So you were saying that big thought you had, well, I'm not good enough. And then underlying thought, it's hard to earn money, and especially big money. And that made you feel scared and small. And of course, when you feel scared and small, those feelings are not fueling you for creating your own business. Like you said, you actually, out of those feelings, you didn't want to take a risk. You didn't want to act on your dreams. You didn't want to research anything about starting in your business. You didn't want to invest in yourself and your own growth. And of course, like you finally finished, you felt stuck. And that's exactly who I work with as well, with women who feel stuck. They're brilliant women, they're ambitious, they have a lot of success. And then they're looking for more courses to take and more whatever to do, but never really face themselves, because usually we are the ones who stand on our own way to get to that possibility until somebody kind of like opens the curtain, or if we have those tools that we've been investing in and use those tools to help ourselves to open that possibility. So I'm glad that you did. And that's where we're moving towards, because right now we kind of like revealed, okay, this is where you were. You had lots of backpacks of rocks, and they were heavy. They were keeping you stuck, and you were all creating them yourself, as you know now. Perhaps
Yes.
back then, you might have also wanted to change your job and created different circumstances, but only to face the same beliefs in a different environment. And then you got smarter. So you finally decided to invest in yourself And that helped you drop those backpacks of rocks to create new possibilities. So take us into that moment when something clicked and then you're like, yes, I hear you.
Yeah.
So did you kind of like transition from that big I'm not good enough to like, well, maybe I'm not that actually bad and I'm actually kind of
Yeah.
smart. Okay.
Yeah, it actually started with a conversation. I specifically remember a conversation that I had with someone that said, I mentioned the idea at the time. I was really curious about investing in the stock market. And I mentioned the idea, somebody in my circle, my community, and his response to me was kind of surprising. But then I realized, like, hey, wait, I have those same thoughts too. And I suggested something like, well, maybe we should look into investing in the stock market. And then he went on to explain that a friend of a friend invested in the stock market and then lost all his money. And he was like, no, I'd rather be poor than take on that risk. So
Mhm.
I and then he mentioned something about like people steal your money. And then I was like, well, I had already kind of started looking into, investing. And I was like, no, 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 like this is not people stealing your money. But I realized it was almost like I was kind of looking at myself in the mirror because I was like, okay, I understand that everything he's saying sounds kind of ridiculous, but I felt like that was in line with the same types of thoughts that I had about like, this kind of stuff isn't for me. I don't know why, but it's just not for me because, my kind of people just don't invest in the stock market. So then I just started getting even more curious and I started researching more about long-term investing, right? Because I wasn't looking for day trading. I was looking at long-term investing. And then I realized it wasn't that hard. And as long as I was in it for the long haul, then I would pretty much be set for retirement. And that was my only goal at the time was
Mhm.
not have to worry about my retirement.
Mhm.
Because I just remember, I think from my childhood, a friend of my mom's always saying, like, you got to save for retirement. You got to save for retirement. My mom really never did, but that always stuck with me. And I thought the way to save for retirement was by saving cash. And then I realized I lost so much time if I would have invested it
Mhm.
by the time I was retired with less money than I would receive at the end. I would be a millionaire or multimillionaire by the time I retired.
Mhm.
So then I started just completely immersing myself with investing. And then I got it all set up. I invested everything. I got over kind of like my mental BS, if you will, on ideas and thoughts that I had about what investing in the stock market meant. And then I realized that actually wasn't that difficult. Once I looked at all the data, read the books, looked at history, looked at the future, and I said, I know this is not something that I'm going to need, tomorrow or even a few years from now. You can withdraw it at any time, but my strategy was long term. So then that all of a sudden kind of like unlocked. And I think that's where I was like, wait, now that I've got this set up, like what else am I going to do? I was like on this huge race of like, oh my God, got to read the book, got to understand, got to invest, got to put my money here, got to put it there, got to take advantage of the tax benefits. And then once it was all said, it was just kind of like I laid back and I was like, if I could do that, and that was like completely out of the circle of from my upbringing and from what anyone that I know does, what else can I do? So then that's when I started looking more into self-development. And then that's when I realized that the most amazing information that I found was that everything, all the answers and all the potential and all the power is actually in my brain. And I don't have to go out and find it. And then all of a sudden, I realized, like, wait, so I don't have to work through from this like scarcity mindset of like I'm not good enough. I don't have to, you know, I can take risks. I don't have to label myself in relation to money. So like I don't have to, put a label on myself that says you're too ambitious, which could mean something negative. In my community, that means something negative. When you're ambitious, And I'm like, I can actually create my own definitions. I can actually decide what I want to think about something.
Mhm.
And I can also decide that it's okay for others to be wrong about me. And I think that's the moment where I was like, okay, now suddenly
Ah,
the investing thing seemed like such a small thing, where before it was like the one shiny golden object that I could not touch. And then all of a sudden that was very small. And I'm like, okay, that's on autopilot. I know what to do there. What next? And then that's when I was like, oh my gosh, like we have so much power. We give it up to the world, we give it up to the circumstances, like you mentioned, to the job, to the family, to the husband or the kids or the wife or whatever. And we're not collecting our power back from all these things and making decisions on our own and
yes,
deciding what we want our future or our money to look like, right? How do we want to feel about our money? Like we have that option. So
yes,
that was definitely the pivotal moment for me.
I can see that. Awesome. Thank you for sharing it. And yes, let me just decipher a few things here from your excellent journey. So I think where I would like to start, you just shared exactly what I've been kind of searching and talking about it. So I once heard Wayne Dyer said, we're not manifesting what we want, we're manifesting who we are.
Love it.
And I think that's exactly what happened, what I gathered through your speech. It started kind of with money just to shine the light. But how you took it and what you created, you actually were able to access your power. And yes, you did your diligent work, you did research, but only because you saw your mirror when you were talking to the person who wasn't even an inspirational speaker, but you finally heard what you were avoiding in your head because I'm not good enough was just like everywhere. But when you heard him say that other people steal your money and I'd rather be poor than invest, that really triggered, which is projected, what you were already carrying through you. But he served you that mirror as a mirror in projection that suddenly you received in a different light. And then from that moment, because of your curious mind, because of your learning abilities, you just decided, I don't want to be that person. That was really interesting how, like, it didn't come, from Tony Robbins or whatever. And actually, you
No.
heard yourself through the mirror and interaction of that person. That was brilliant. And that's where you just put all your curiosity to create facts for yourself, for your mind to be happy. Like, okay, I have facts, mind, thank you very much. But then I also love how through that journey, you just kept asking, oh my God, what else is possible? Oh my God, I learned this. Like, oh my God, this is like another door opens and another door opens and another door opens. And what I'm hearing through your speech, abundance. And maybe through that
Yes.
process, you haven't made the money yet and you haven't invested yet, but you've already created you who is abundant, who is having that abundant mindset. So that's exactly that. We're not manifesting what we want, we're manifesting who you are or who we are. So, and that's
Right.
like was a great point of your journey that just kept reminding me, like, yeah, she's manifested who she is. She manifested her abundant mindset. And then the rest, she was not on her own way to continue putting all that she learned into actions. Awesome. I love
Exactly.
it.
Yep.
So does it resonate true to you when I brought it back to you?
Yes, no, definitely. It was something that you mentioned is even though you haven't generated the money yet, you're operating from that place. So when I realized that if I had invested in a certain amount of money, that would pretty much guarantee that once I got to, 65 and retired, let's just
Mhm.
say,
Mhm.
um, that I would be set for retirement. So then suddenly I was like, wait, I used to think that $1 million was a lot of money. Like I used to think that like a millionaire is just someone that has $1 million in net worth. They could have a $500,000 home that's paid off and $500,000 in investments, and they're a millionaire. So I started kind of like peeling back the layers and then realizing it's actually not that hard. I invested this and I've guaranteed myself, as long as I don't touch it, to be at least a millionaire by the time I retire, so that I'll have that money at my disposal and I don't have to worry about, not people like nowadays. There's a lot of people that, are poor in retirement or, have to take on a job because they can't afford to retire. So when I started realizing, like, wait a minute, $1 million, even $2 or $3 million is not that much money. At least it became more of like, instead of this really far shiny gold object, now it was like right in front, and I was able to kind of examine it, look at all sides, and I was like, okay, well, actually, this isn't really that much money. So what was I afraid of? So then I became of like this, kind of held on to this thought of like, wait, I've guaranteed myself to be a millionaire by the time I retire. Why can't I operate and act as if like I had that money now? Like there's no difference, right? I don't have the money now. And but but in my mind, I know I will have it. And I still have that same feeling of like almost like relief of like, wait, I'm gonna be set. So why not kind of bring that same energy to the present, that same powerful feeling to the present, and operate from there?
Mhm.
So that's kind of going back to what we mentioned about taking the power back to
Yeah.
your own brain, your own thoughts about your life. So yeah.
Exactly. That's awesome. That's exactly what I work with my clients on as well, and in my own journey, because the language of the body is the emotions, is the feeling of what that $1 million feels like, creates for you now and experiencing now, getting into that emotional state. Because, yes, the fact of the $1 million is great, but why we want it? Because we want to feel a certain way. So why not to embody that feeling now and teaching the body emotionally to experience it? Because feeling abundant is going to be handy now. Just even when we think and feel abundant, we don't get stuck between all or nothing and thinking like that is either or B. But when you have that, like you kept opening those doors of opportunities and possibilities just by you staying curious, and then suddenly, like, oh my God, that is like C, D, E, F, and G. Like all of that is possible. So, and again, it's important to have this now so that when you get to that $1 million, as you do your diligent work and continue staying through this process, you're just meeting the expanded version of that abundance there and not using the $1 million to satisfy your need or satisfy you feeling black right now, feeling small right now. So you opened up, you created transition from I'm not good enough. And now you're just meeting that who knows what to do with $1 million. Right.
Exactly.
So, which
Well
is
said.
awesome. So, and that's that feeling of abundance. And it's a practice and it's a process, and especially like thinking about or talking about money, like I always sometimes visualize, like especially coming from lack, like you need to have a period of time, you have to practice like you've done, because I always think if I win like $100 million lottery, like I don't know, lots of it, like I won't know what to do with it, especially if I am feeling small and I'm not good enough. Like, yeah, it's nice like idea, but technically my consciousness is not there to like receive it or do like what am I gonna do with it? I don't know. How do you look?
Yeah.
But that's
Yeah.
the thing. So more you work on that abundant mindset, which can be expressed in many different ways, then that question, if it's just theoretical question, or like that question then they ask, like, if you had $1,000,000, what would you do with it? When you have that conscious mindset of abundance, you like create whatever with that. But when you limit it, I remember like somebody would ask me, like in those parties or something, the quizzes, like, what would you do with $1,000,000? I would be like, I don't know. Because I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
I'm small, I'm not smart enough, blah, blah. All of that, it's not even allowing you to create what's possible in your mind.
Right. Yeah, and you actually bring up a good point because I feel like there's three kind of big components to money, earning it, spending it, and having it. So if you do come into a large sum of money, let's say, a million or 100 million you mentioned, um, if you're operating from I'm not good enough to have this money, you're not going to know how to make it grow. You're going to either give it all away or spend it on things that aren't going to add value to your life.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're operating from that, I'm not good enough, you might as well not have the 100 million because it's going to disappear. And I know that happens to a lot of people that do win the lottery. I mean, I've seen so many stories about people that have won the lottery that they end up the same or worse in a lot of cases. And it's because you can't change. Money isn't going to change your thoughts about yourself or about the world. It's only going to amplify them, right? And that's actually one of the biggest kind of like belief discoveries that I had was that money doesn't change people. And that's, I think, something that I thought was like, no, I don't want to have too much money. I don't want to show too much money because I don't want people to think that I'm no longer the person I originally was, right? And I think I would have this idea that it was going to turn me into a bad person, right? Because you see people in the movies have money, they're usually portrayed as greedy. Even the expression like filthy rich, it has such a negative connotation around it. So that's going back to the three components. I think that's why it's so important to really understand what's going on inside your brain, what thoughts like, I'm not good enough are running through your brain, because that's ultimately going to affect how you earn money, how you have money, and how you spend money.
Yes, which that's a great invitation to our audience to look at your patterns of how you're earning money, spending money, and having money. So see what's there, like what's actually showing up for you physically. And then perhaps, yes, invite yourself to question or be curious, inquire into your thoughts. So when you're earning money, like, is that thought, it's hard to earn money? Then you come from that limited place. And then, yes, how you're spending money. So like Rosa and also me included, I'm a saver. But of course, there is always that circle, you're spending and you're saving. And it's like that giving and receiving. So we cannot just give, and we cannot just receive. Like, it is always like giving and receiving. And then just, yeah, having the money. Like, yes, what do you do with that? How do you do with this? So this is a really great point. I love that 3-step process. So how you grow money and how money help you add value in your life, but not because you using the money as a tool to make you happy, so to speak, just like with weight loss, right? So like all that weight loss we see, so we think if we lose the weight, we're happier. If we have the money, we're happier. But what we are talking about, and from our journey, when the journey comes from inner sourcing instead of outer sourcing, that's when the changes stick, so to speak. That's when they become long term, because it's you, the person, your thoughts, your understanding, your beliefs. That's what changing within you. And when you act out into the outsourcing world, from that new experience, like you said, upgraded system, updated point of view, that's when the changes happen. That's when like the miracles become possible because you are a different person. So then you are resonating abundance and just attracting the abundance back. So I bet that you now probably meet more people who kind of on that wave, who actually kind of like take you to more possibilities with money and with the abundance. I bet you're probably not meeting the person who mirrored that you back. Like, they steal your money. So
Yeah.
is that the truth? Do you feel more people who are more into the abundant mindset now?
Yeah, it's so actually amazing that you mentioned that because that is something that I have kind of observed and realized is that as I'm kind of uncovering, right, we think it's about money, but there's actually all these underlying thoughts and beliefs that are really the thing we should look at. And once I kind of brought them to the forefront and I started seeing what was actually going through my mind and kind of acknowledging it and understanding, like, okay, this is what my brain is telling me, but what exactly do I want to think on purpose?
Mhm.
Then it's like I had a little bit more power to kind of take back, right? It's not an overnight thing. And I started operating differently. I started acting differently. I started kind of putting myself in places where, I normally wouldn't, saying yes to things, talking to people. And that has opened up more possibilities. And also, like you mentioned, connections with people that are, doing the same thing or kind of along the same line of thought of like, wait, maybe there's more for me and maybe I am enough, right? Or I am, good, drop the enough.
Mhm, mhm.
um,
You're beyond
so
enough.
yes, exactly. So yeah, definitely. I definitely want to say that it's so fascinating because I look back and I kind of zoom out from my life and I'm like, my regular job hasn't changed, my family hasn't changed, my partner, my kids,
Mhm,
my, circle of friends, no one and nothing has changed on the outside, but
mhm,
everything has changed for me on the inside because I'm discovering what's going on inside my mind and making a conscious choice on how I intentionally want to think. And it is so true that when you kind of open yourself up to that, you do tend to gravitate towards people like that. And I think it just happens because you're putting yourself in that direction. And then people are open and excited just the way you are to find other people that are kind of on the same path.
mhm.
Not the exact same path, but kind of going within the same direction. So
Yes.
that's been exciting.
Yeah, because you are that who resonates that energy. And I am a big fan of lore of like laws of the universe, so to speak, because I always like to think of myself as a co-creator because I believe like we're here to evolve and grow. But as we're going and peeling off all those limiting beliefs, like I might not imagine what is possible in my limited mind. That's why I always think about that co-creation and the laws of the universe. And I want to bring three of them that I hear you've been experiencing. And the first one is the law of contrast. So you had to experience that lack, I'm not good enough, to help you bridge the way to the other side. And I am sure if we really dig into your journey, you can tell us a lot of those things as you started to go to that opposite. The law of contrast was showing up to teach you some things and also to kind of like remind you, like, do you really want it? Just to
Oh
use to
yeah.
stay on track and ask, oh, thank you for showing me that I really want that way. So the law of contrast can be a very tricky, but a very interesting way to look at your journey and progression. So, and then obviously the law of attraction, just like I've been talking already. So it's that, it actually comes with that law of resonance, which when you start resonating that energy of abundance, of possibilities, of I am more than enough, you start attracting those people, those resources, those things that start showing up. Oh yeah, I am attracting that energy because again, like money is a tool physically, but it's energy, and it's energy of abundance. So in law of attraction, it's all about that high vibration of energy and attracting kind of the same. So, and of course, my favorite law is the law of pure potentiality. And that's, everything is possible. And I also read that from Wayne Dyer, and he was just saying that everything we kind of like create in our mind, which in that moment of creation feels like it's impossible, just because we are created, that means from the law of potentiality, it exists out there. So that's why trust that gut feeling, trust that something feels like beyond I'm not good enough, which means you're ready. Like if you're thinking that way, if you're kind of like imagining that way. So like, yeah, you're ready. You're ready to say, yes, I'm good enough and more than enough. And the journey starts. So I love that. So these are my laws, and they're my favorite ones. And I think I heard them in action in your story. Could you relate to them?
Absolutely, 100%. I can think of so many examples where
Mhm.
where that definitely applies.
Yes, yes, I love it. Okay, and this is just again kind of helps you to know in that power of co-creation. Okay, so what I wanted to kind of finalize our talk here, because we're coming to our time that we planned for this conversation. You mentioned several times thinking on purpose. Love that. To create conscious choices. So can you share with our audience here some of your favorite thoughts, like abundance or money type related, investment type related thoughts that you are generating on purpose to create those conscious choices? So we'll see if we can borrow that.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I would say on the thoughts or on the topic of money, one of the things that I love doing is thinking consciously about how I'm spending money, for example. So I'm going to say something that maybe, or to give an example that maybe everyone can relate to. Whenever you're paying your rent or your a mortgage payment, for me, I love my home. I love it because, I'm here with my family. There's so many things I love about my home. So I think in the past, I would always think of it, even though I loved my home, but I always think of it as like, oh, X amount times 12. How much would I actually have at the end of the year if I had just paid this house off? And if I just, I wish it wasn't more so expensive. I wish it was less. At the time I was thinking it was expensive. And then when I started discovering this work, I was like, wait, I absolutely love my home. And I want to match that same energy for my home with the amount of money that I'm paying each month for it. So then it was like a complete shift where it was like, thank you. Every time I'd see that amount hit my bank account, I'd say, thank you so much for providing a home for my family, for the warmth or the possibility of creating memories for my family, for the space that you provide so that I can play with my kids or I can just feel so good.
Mhm.
So that was one of the things where I started taking a little bit more like of a purposeful way of thinking about it. Also, before in the past, going out to eat, same thing. It was like if I didn't go out to eat, I can eat. I love cooking. So I'm like, I could make this at home before we had kids. I was like, we could make this at home. Why spend the money going out to eat? And my husband really was the one that I think helped me shift that because he started bringing to the front. Like imagine like 20 years from now, like our thing is that we go out for brunch every single weekend. and our kids are grown and they still do it. And maybe they continue it with their family. And it's just a beautiful time to like, you know, somewhat disconnect, right? You don't have to do the cooking, the cleaning, and you create memories and you connect with the people in your family. Sometimes we invite other people, my mom or other family members. And it's just such a really nice way to spend that money. And I think the way I've looked at it is that I'm so glad that I do have the family that I have and the ability to use this money in exchange for great memories. So that was also a little bit of a shift. And more so kind of like I do think about like Marie Kondo, where she would say, like, thank you when you give away clothes or you get rid of clothes, you'd say like, thank you, X thing or whatever it was for serving me. It's the kind of like a similar concept where you just think that that amount of money that is leaving your account in exchange for something that provides value in your life, right? Whether it's like a memory or a home that makes you feel good because of the thoughts that you're thinking in your home, right? But that same exact thing applies to how you spend money. So that was one. That was one. And then on the opposite end, similar to what I was earning, because at the time, I think I was making, I think I was happy with what I was earning, but I just kept thinking like it wasn't enough. Like it wasn't enough. Because if I had more, I would do this. And if I had more, I would do that. And again, the whole I would be happier thing, right? And I actually, when I started doing some of this work, I was like, wait, this income provides me the ability to, and then I started naming the things, right? Whether it was, you know, be able to pay for a home, be able to go on vacations with my family, something that I never had in my childhood, regular vacations, sometimes multiple times a year. And now that we have kids, bring them along, right? And not have to worry. And then when I started having the idea of investing in my own self, I started thinking that money that was coming in for flowing to me, because then now I have the option to decide how I want to spend that money. And that gives me the ability to invest in myself. Right. So that was, I would say, like twofold. It's the overarching concept is just thanking the money for flowing in and loving the money that I'm spending. And just kind of on the contrast to that, if there were things that I wasn't loving that I was spending on, that's where I'm like, okay, this is where my work is. If I don't love the home that I'm in, maybe I could spend that money on the home that I actually want to be in, right? Or if I was going out with friends every weekend and I just hated the feeling of seeing my account, spending that money, and all I had was a hangover, then maybe I just redecide how I actually want to spend that money, right? Because those feelings do give you a little bit of a sign, give you the option of how you want to think about it. You can improve the way you want to think about going out, but if it, at the end you're like, I just hate the result of it, then it's like, okay, well then let's try to see what we can make modifications on that we could that can help us generate better thoughts or thoughts that are serving us. So
Yeah.
yeah, that was my my little tip
Awesome.
to share
Well,
on.
I love
Yeah.
it that you went back to your three categories: how I earn money, how I spend money, and how I have money. And you gave us that quick snapshot of how you were with the same circumstances and perhaps like same income, and how you are. And you definitely described me back then, because I would be like also like, you know, scrunching my body and like, oh, I have to write this check. Like it's never gonna come again, because again, we are stepping out of that potential and out of that abundance and just saying it's limited. Like I write this check and then there are no other checks. But the universe just keeps providing and I keep doing, and it's flowing by not recognizing and just thinking it, which is again, we're attracting what we are thinking, right? What we are grateful for. So I love that. And I guess the major thoughts that I heard you say, I am grateful for the money flowing in. That's the thought on purpose. And then you also said, I am loving to spend the money. And
Yes.
we're not talking about going crazy, but just bringing that
No, absolutely
energy,
not.
because yes, when I'm grateful for money flowing in, then I'm loving to spend the money, and the money continue flowing in. And yes, you still
Right.
do the work. So these are the conscious thoughts that create conscious actions to just enjoy your present state as you're tapping into what's possible, into that identity that you're already creating. Well, I have my $1 million. How do I want to feel? And just like you said, I love how you said that, using your feelings to tell you where you are. So I always say, I feelings is a gift, because this is a GPS to let us know how aligned we are with that co-creation of the universe, with our own essence, who we want to be. So use those feelings to just simply oh yeah, today I feel so frustrated. What's happening? How I'm not aligned today. And perhaps that money story will come, or that I'm not good enough comes, because they visit. And as long as we stay welcoming them, then they're flowing in and flowing out.
Right. Exactly.
So yeah. Well, I've enjoyed the conversation tremendously. So I've learned so much, and it's just so good to know that there is somebody out there who was doing things and feeling things certain way and thinking things certain way, and created the opportunity for changes to see what's possible. And then suddenly those possibilities become your realities, just to create more possibilities. And
Exactly.
I am happy to talk and voice the theme of money, because I know it's been my sensitive subject. So I celebrate my growth in just talking about it and inviting my money expert. Okay, so let us know how we can find you, so that you can continue spreading the abundance and helping people grow beyond their limiting belief of I'm not good enough and feeling small, so that they can tap into their potential and have resources like money to support them. So where can we find you?
Yeah. You can find me on Instagram. My Instagram handle is at Rose Knows Money, ROSE Knows Money. You can find me there. You can DM me. I'm open to answering questions or just having a conversation. And Jules, I want to thank you so much for having me, for inviting me. It's been a pleasure in sharing with everyone that is going to see this. And I hope that you can find some value.
Of course, we will find some value. There is no hope about it. So, and yes, I will put Rosa's handle, IG handle, in the description. Please reach out, because there is lots of abundance out there. Let's tap into it and co-create together, so that we have more smiles and less of those I'm not good enough. Because when you open the window to the possibilities, you'll be surprised what's possible. Okay,
Yes.
well, thank you so much for being here.